Hello and welcome everyone. So let us discuss about the design strength of beams in case of bending or flexure. So as we have discussed that in case of beams we have to protect the top flanges which are in compression. So for that we can provide some restraints on the top compression flanges. So when we have provided some lateral supports, then those are called laterally supported beams, and if we have not provided such restraints, then those beams are called laterally unsupported beams. So here the beams supported against lateral torsional buckling or the laterally supported beam is governed by yield stress and the factor design moment M. Now factor design moment M is calculated with the help of loadings which comes on the beams. So there are basically dead load and the imposed load, and sometimes wind load also are exerted on the beams. So factor design moment M, which can be calculated like in the case of uniformly distributed loading. What is the value of M? Is equal to WL square by 8. Okay, when W is the uniformly distributed load over the entire span on a simply supported beam. So this is the factor design moment M at mid span, and here we have used factored load. This is in case of UDL. Okay, in case of point load, M would be equal to WL by 4. Okay, and here W should be factored load, then only we get the factored design moment. So this value in a beam due to external actions shall satisfy the relationship, and it should be less than or equal to MD. And MD is the design bending strength or the capacity of the section. So this is very obvious, and this is also given in IS code. So in case of laterally supported beams, actually those beams which have adequate supports at the compression flanges, and they have full lateral restraints and torsional restraints at supports, and which are provided by web cleats or partial depth of plate. So different arrangements that we are not going into details. So where there is fully lateral restraints provided to the compression flange, and specifically it happens when the member is capable of resisting a lateral force not less than 2.5% of the maximum lateral force in the compression flange of the member. So lateral restraint can be provided by the floor slab also, which is applied there on the beams, and this may be considered to be uniformly distributed along the flange. So in the laterally supported beams, there can be three types of sections. One can be plastic section, compact section, and semi-compact sections. And slender section we do not design, okay, because they buckle even before reaching the yield stress. So what to talk of plastic moment? And in these type of sections there can be two cases, and the case one is that now we have supported or provided restraints to the compression flanges. Now flanges were taking the bearing loads or the bending, but what about the webs? Because web is the vertical portion of the I-beam which is exerted by the shear forces. So the webs can also fail under shear buckling. So the case one is that web of section is susceptible to shear buckling before even reaching the yield stress, and case 2 is web of section not susceptible to shear buckling before yielding. Okay, so the web of section is susceptible to shear buckling before yielding. Now we are taking case 1, okay, in which web of section is susceptible to shear buckling before reaching yielding. So when the flanges are plastic, compact or semi-compact, but here web is undergoing local buckling, so in that case, that means our depth of the web by thickness of the web is less than or equal to 67 epsilon, and epsilon is mostly equal to 1. Okay. So in that case, the design yielding stress may be calculated using one of the following methods, and the first method is that the bending moment and axial force is assumed to be resisted by flanges only, and the web is designed only to resist the shear. Separately, flanges for the bending moment and axial force, and webs will carry the shear force. Second can be that the whole section is resisting the bending moment and axial force, and the web is also designed for combined shear and normal stresses. So this is done by using simple elastic theory in case of semi-compact webs, and whereas simple plastic theory in case of compact and plastic webs. So, and in case of case 2, when the web of section is not susceptible to buckling under shear before yielding, so that means it's a stocky web. So in that case, this ratio, actually these ratios are the slenderness ratio. Okay. So in that case, d upon tw is greater than 67 epsilon. So in that case, the code says that d by tw should be greater than 67 epsilon, okay, for a web without stiffeners. And if we have provided stiffeners in the web, then we have to multiply here root under kb by 5.35, where kb is the shear buckling coefficient for the restraint that we have provided. So now these are the limits that we have to check whether the web is undergoing shear buckling or not. And for those beams, the factored shear force V, now factored shear force V can be calculated. Now what is the value of V for a uniformly distributed load W? It's equal to WL by 2, okay. It's for a UDL, where W is the factored uniformly distributed load, and V value is equal to W upon 2 for the point load, okay, or concentrated load. So all these basic formulas that we have studied in mechanics or the structural analysis will come into action here. Now for those beams, the factored shear force, this value of V does not exceed 0.6 times VD, where VD is the design shear strength or the shear capacity of the section. So this shear capacity of the section is calculated by this formula. This is given in the code, okay, 8.4 section, and VD is equal to AV into Fy divided by root under 3 into gamma MO. Gamma MO is equal to 1.1 and Fy is equal to 250 megapascal mostly, and AV is the shear area, and shear area can be calculated as given below. In case of eye and channel section, if there is major axis bending, and mostly there is bending across the major axis only, then in case of hot rolled, AV is equal to H times, H is the height of the web and TW is the thickness of the web. So in case of hot rolled section, AV will be equal to H times TW, and in welded box section, the value of AV will be D times TW, okay. So when V value is less than 0.6 times VD, this is a case of low shear, okay. So in laterally supported beams, there can be a chance of low shear and there can be a chance of high shear. So when V is less than 0.6 times VD, it's a case of low shear. So the same thing is written here in case of low shear. When factored design shear force doesn't exceed 0.6 times VD, then the design bending moment shall be taken as MD is equal to beta B into ZP into Fy by gamma MO, and it should be less than 1.2 into ZE into Fy by gamma MO. Now gamma MO is equal to 1.1 always, and ZE is the elastic section modulus, and Zp is the plastic section modulus. Okay, and Fy is 250 megapascal. All values are clear here. And now what is the beta B? So beta B is given here. It is equal to 1 for plastic and compact section, and beta B is equal to Ze upon Zp for semi-compact section. So the value of Ze, elastic section modulus, and Zp, plastic section modulus, for different cross sections can be calculated, or it can be even if it is a rolled section, then you can take these values from steel tables. Okay, and if it is a builded box section or built up section, then we have to calculate this value of Ze and Zp. So it becomes a huge numerical and it becomes a rigorous exercise, but in examination normally the rolled sections are only given, and these values are also provided. So MD should be equal to beta B into Zp into Fy by gamma mo. Okay, basically this is the formula for design bending moment strength, and design bending strength is equal to this value, and it should be less than this value in case of simply supported beam, and this value in case of cantilever beam. So in cantilever beam we see 1.5 is multiplied, and in case of simply supported beam 1.2 is multiplied. Okay, so this is the case in case of low shear. Okay, and in case of high shear, what happens here? The factored shear force V exceeds the value of 0.6 times Vd. So in this case of laterally supported beam, when it is subjected with high shear, now the design strength, bending strength MD will be taken as MD equal to MdV, where MdV is design bending strength under high shear. Okay, and as per IS code, this is calculated as follow, and you can have a look on this formula also. Here you can see in case of heavy shear or the high shear, MdV value is given by this formula in IS code. Okay, and MdV is equal to MD minus beta times MD minus MFD, and it should be less than 1.2 Zefy by gamma mo. Here beta is equal to 2V by Vd minus 1 square, and V is the factored shear force and Vd is the design shear strength. MD is the plastic design moment which we have just calculated, disregarding high shear force effect. Just we have calculated MD in case of low shear, and that value is used here, and V is the factored shear force for the external loadings, and Vd is the design shear strength as governed by web building or web buckling, and MFD is the plastic design strength of the area of cross section excluding the shear area and considering partial safety factor gamma mo, and Ze is the elastic section modulus. And for semi compact section, MdV is given by this formula, Ze into Fy by gamma mo. So basically this formula is for the plastic and compact section only. Okay, so this is how we calculate in case of high shear, and you can see for plastic and compact section this formula of MdV is given, and where beta value is this, and MD which we have calculated in case of low shear is used here, and MFD is the plastic design moment of area of cross section excluding the shear area, and MFD is given by this formula ZFD into Fy. Okay, so ZFD is equal to Zp minus TWH square by 4, and MdV is equal to Ze into Fy by gamma mo for semi compact section. So this is also given in IS code. So basically this is how we calculate the design bending strength in case of low shear and heavy shear. Okay, so when we will discuss the numericals, all these things will become clear, and when there are holes provided in the tension zone, then we have to take account of those holes also, and these effects are specifically discussed if these are considered. Specifically, these discussions will go out of scope of our syllabus, so we are ignoring that. What about the shear lag? So simple theory of bending is based on the assumption that plane section remains plane after bending, but presence of shear strain causes section to warp, and its effect is to modify the bending stress obtained by simple theory, producing higher stresses near junction of a web and lower stresses at points far away from it, as shown in the figure. This effect is called shear lag, and you can see how there is shear lag in this case of the flanges. In this case there is warping action, okay, and this is how the shear is lagging in this I section. So this happens specifically because of bending of the plates, because it is not the case all the time, but the simple theory of bending was based on that all the planes remains the plane, but here the plane is getting bent like this, okay. Now the flanges are not the simple planes here, they have already bended, and due to this the bending stresses obtained by simple theory producing higher stresses near junction of a web. So at the junction it is higher, and at points far away from it there is lower stresses. So at the junction there is high stress, and the points away from the junction there is low stresses. So such a behavior which is being manifested here is called the shear lag effects, and the effect is minimal in rolled section which have narrow and thick flanges. That's why in the rolled section there is narrow and thick flanges, narrow flanges at the projections and thick flanges at the junction, and more pronounced in plate girder section. Now plate girder section are the built up beams, and in those beams since the plates is provided there, and in that case there is uniform thickness over the entire flange, so in that case shear lag is specifically calculated, but we are not much concerned with plate girders right now. And this is how shear lag effects are calculated. Now let us come to the design steps of laterally unsupported beams, and we know that under increasing transverse load a beam should attain its fully plastic moment capacity. It should be the case, and this type of behavior in laterally supported beams have already been covered. But the two assumptions made to achieve the ideal behavior are that the compression flanges are restrained from moving laterally, and any form of local buckling is prevented in case of laterally supported beams. But in the real case these ideal assumptions do not work, okay. So these are the two assumptions to achieve this ideal behavior, but in the real case what happens, many beams are laterally unsupported, and a beam experiencing bending moment about the major axis and its compression flanges not restrained against buckling may not attain its material capacity, and that's the phenomena of lateral buckling or lateral torsional buckling of beam may take place, and beam would fail well before it can attain its full moment capacity, and it's similar to the Euler bucklings of the column. And in that case the resistance to lateral buckling need to be checked separately, and bending is about here the minor axis of the section, and the section used here are the hollow, rectangular or tubular or solid bars, and in case of major axis bending lambda LT should be less than or equal to 0.4, where lambda LT is non-dimensional slenderness ratio for torsional buckling, and this is given on the IS code page number 54, and this is how we calculate the design bending strength in case of laterally unsupported beams. See, in this case the formula remains same like the laterally supported beam. Here beta B is equal to 1.1 for plastic and compact section, and ZE by ZP for semi-compact section, and FBD, now this we have to calculate, and FBD is the design bending compressive stress, okay, and this is given by this formula. It is equal to xi lt into f by gamma mo. Now xi lt we have to calculate. It is the bending stress reduction factor to account for lateral torsional buckling, because there are torsional bucklings occurring here laterally. So xi lt is equal to 1 upon phi lt plus root under phi lt square minus lambda lt square. Now phi lt you can calculate from this formula. So it's a step-wise procedure, and phi lt is equal to half into 1 plus alpha lt into gamma lt minus 0.2 plus lambda lt. So what is alpha lt and what is lambda lt? So alpha lt is the imperfection factor, and if we have used rolled steel section, then we have to use alpha lt equal to 0.21, and for welded steel section alpha lt is 0.49. Now what is the non-dimensional slenderness ratio gamma lt here, and gamma lt is equal to beta b zp into fy by mcr, and it should be less than this value, or it can be equated with fy upon fcr b. So mcr is the elastic critical moment and FCRB is the extreme fiber bending compressive stresses. So now to calculate lambda LT, we have to calculate MCR and FCRB. So MCR is given in this section only, 8.2.21. Here this is elastic lateral torsional buckling moment, and MCR is equal to this formula. Okay, and FCRB can also be calculated using this formula. And here most of the things are provided, and if not they given, then we can take from the IS code. And here LT is the torsional constant and LW is the warping constant, and this is how thickness of flanges TF, HF is the center to center distance between flanges, and LT is the effective length for lateral torsional buckling, and Ly, Iy and Ry is the moment of inertia and radius of gyration respectively about the weaker axis. So this is how difficult it becomes to design the laterally unsupported beams. So that's why laterally unsupported beams design are mostly not asked as per in the questions, but of course we have to understand basically all the design steps in case of beams. Only then we can encompass the full confidence on the design of beams. Okay, so here this is how shear strength of beams are calculated, and as I said that V should be less than Vd, and V is the factored shear force, and Vd is equal to Vn by gamma mo. Vn is the nominal shear strength, and Vn is given by this formula of AP F by W by root 3, and this we have discussed. And when we put this value here, so Vd comes out to be AV into F by W divided by root 3 gamma MO. Okay, so this we have discussed for the design shear strength, and AV is the shear area, and it is given for I beams HTW and for welded beams DTW. Okay, and resistance to shear buckling also we have discussed, DYTW. All these ratios has to be checked for the shear bucklings, and the lateral torsional bucklings are also checked. So now the last topic that remains, which is very important to understand, is the web crippling and web buckling. So if you see what is the difference between web buckling and web crippling. So in this case web is buckling, okay, whereas in this case there is slight crippling in the web. So this is crippling. Okay, crippling, as the name suggests, that web has become crippled. Crippled means एक handicapped, like a person who has become lame. Okay, so this is crippling of the web, but this is the buckling of web. Okay, so when a heavy load or reaction concentrated, basically the concentrated load on a short length produces a region of high compressive stress in the vertical elements of the web, either under the load or at the support. So it can be either under the application of load or it can happen at the supports also. So the web under a load or above buckling as shown in figure and a web reaction point may cause web failure such as web crippling. And web crippling is also known as web crushing. So it is also known as crushing. And web buckling generally occurs when the intensity of vertical compressive stress near the center of section becomes greater than the critical buckling stress for the web acting as a column. So this is basic difference between web crippling and web buckling. So this is also checked in most of the cases and we have discussed this also. So this is how you can see as the web crippling here, and you can see here the point load being applied on a beam, okay, and you can see all the dimension B1 plus 2N1, and this is the effective width for web buckling being shown here. So this is how we calculate different dimensions and slenderness ratio in the case of web buckling, and in case of web crippling we calculate this empirical dispersion length, and all these lengths are calculated specifically in the design of web buckling and web crippling, which is of course design is beyond the scope of syllabus, so we are just touching an introduction to these terms also in case of design of beams, okay. So this was all, and we will see the numericals also in the coming videos. Till that, stay tuned and stay safe. Thank you.